Juniper, I knew from the beginning that until we get our young people educated about the history of this nation, to appreciate our heritage, to read our founding documents, so that they can pass on that love of America to their children and to their communities, nothing's going to work. Secured line to Denver. Thank you. It's the president. About the great renaissance in the state of California. Right. Well, you fire away, okay? Well, it's an exciting program. We're actually going to, I think, change the world. And I know President Michael's famous for saying that about everything. We decided to help California, Juniper, by creating a kind of a hybrid new school system in California. And it really needed about 2 years to build essentially 800 new campuses that would be subsidized, at least temporarily, by the federal government, right? But I don't want you to think for a moment that this is a federal school system of bureaucracy in Washington running schools in California. It's really not that at all, because the goal, the charter of these schools is for them to be private, correct? But they're so unique that they needed their founding with a little help from Uncle Sam, because we created a lot of the market-based incentives for the builders, kept costs in line, which is something really unique to government. And we also created the curriculum, which is really where I got involved, okay? We went into California, we made it clear to the public school system there and the teachers union, we're not looking for a fight. We're not looking to create enemies. We're looking really for kind of a treaty, so to speak. And we're going to be supportive of the public school system. We really are. We're not your enemy. We're really just looking to raise the tide and to create a standard of excellence. And through this sort of friendly competition, a lot of our positive notions, which have been manifested into successes, are being assimilated now into the public school system, of course, because success is contagious, right? Okay, and a lot of people voted with their feet, Juniper, quite honestly. They measured the benefits of going to a public school versus the new school system that we've created. And frankly, in many cases, they've decided to go with us. Well, what were the reasons? One was discipline. We enforced discipline in academics, in sports, in classroom behavior, a lot of discipline. We have a dress code. We're involved in a lot of great things that harken back to the best of American history. And the quality of the education is something else we need to talk about, because it became almost an accomplishment for a student just to be able to read, yet alone to be able to be competitive in the new space economy. But we're taking it to a whole new zenith. I want the young people coming out of this school system to be the leaders of the world, and to have exactly a world-class education, of course, based in the rudiments in reading, writing, and arithmetic. But we're also exposing them to the classics, right? And there's a very robust arts program, correct? So we want them to be creative, we want them to be visionary. Good. This is all happening in California. Next question. This is like old times, Juniper. Remember our last interview? Okay, right. We talked about spirituality. Well, yes, well, it is spiritual. Yes, it is, because the human heart is very delicate and it needs to be inspired. And it becomes demoralized actually quite quickly. You know, I'm a Christian. We're taught to keep a kind of a protection around our minds, because the world is always attacking, right? Trying to bring us down. And I don't want our young people being brought down. I want to help our young people. And the parents appreciate it. Okay? And your next question. Okay, about the rewards. Well, it's a little bit like the rewards on your credit card. And I hate to trivialize it, but in a way it is, because this is something everyone related to. To the extent that you're successful in learning American heritage in the various modules. In fact, even the parents can get involved, because we have an online learning tool that they have 24-hour access to. So any American, really, who is willing to learn about American history and our virtue and our heritage, and is willing to take a test about the Constitution, is willing to share that with their community and do public service, we reward them with points, just like a credit card. And these points could be used to lower their tax burden. It could be used for travel. We even have some premiums here in Washington where they can visit and meet here at the White House. Some of the real superstar students are even meeting with me. So we're building in all these rewards and incentives for everyone, not just the young people, but even their parents. So it's this sort of dynamic that we're creating between incentivized production of a school system, which is held to a high degree of accountability from the very building of the schools themselves right through the assessments of the completion of the program. And on the other side, favoring these students so much with rewards to keep them going, to always have something to work toward. Right. Well, there is something else, and that's the visual, and I'm a big believer in that. So because space is so important to the United States, we've created amazing audiovisual presentations for the young people, where they sit in a theater It's a little bit like IMAX, but it's a little bit scaled down and it's a little bit even more colorful because we're using technology even that IMAX didn't have. But we're going to show them what's out in the galaxy, and they're getting really excited about how they're going to be the scientists and the logistics experts and the systems communications people. They're learning about the orbital lanes. They're learning about cislunar space and the importance of mining and extracting elements from space, including thermal energy, which we're going to use to peg our monetary system. So they're even taking their space learning and applying it to economics. Get it? So these young people are provided a panorama of the next 100 years by going through our school system. So I mean, just doing algebra and reading, Marcel Proust and learning, reading Fitzgerald and knowing the class. I mean, that's just nothing. They do that like I eat a piece of cake, right? Okay, because young people are really brilliant, but they need a little motivation, they need discipline, they need structure, and they need a little inspiration. Okay, so we're doing all of that. Good, 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 good. And your last question. I am looking at the clock. I have to be in Washington in about 45 minutes. I know that seems unbelievable, but somehow I'll make it. No, I don't have my tie on. Okay. Well, maybe I could be in Washington in an hour. Okay. It usually takes about an hour. So, okay, the last question, the last question. Well, why California? Well, California for me, is where I grew up. And I think that California is very important to the world. The San Joaquin Valley, of course, Hollywood, Silicon Valley. It's always been a land of dreams. And I really believe that if we can really launch a great renaissance in California, it would exemplify on a grander scale what we're capable of doing on many other fronts. And the reason why I chose education as the sort of kind of the linchpin of this whole renaissance is that I'm a really big believer in giving people the tools to achieve great things rather than telling them what to do. If you see what I mean. So I knew that if I could provide the highest level of incentives, again, through rewards, through setting goals and creating correct structure and making it all about really, really correct a zeal for patriotism, that they do the rest, that they would be creating a lot of the great ideas for this nation, beginning with their communities and their state. And it would rub off. And it's already starting to, because some of the first cohorts of this program are already talking about getting in government in California. These are young people, 16, 17 years old, who are already talking about how they want to run for the assembly, how they want to go out in the community and teach others about the greatness of America. They want to teach the whole history of the Golden State, correct, going back to 1848 and the gold rush. I mean, it's completely gone to the other side of the spectrum now, where these young people are all about education and inspiration and nobility and loving America. And we just had to give them the tools. And I do believe it's going to rub off in other ways. Right, right. Well, correct, because the federal government can't do everything. So we had to be laser-like in our precision in helping California. Yes, because I can't go in and say, I want you to do ABC with the police. We're already very active on the border, and that's, of course, within the federal domain. But there are a lot of issues in California that I, as the president, really, really hesitate to get involved in because that's really not how our system works. We're a federal system. But this was an emergency. And honestly, the Californians loved everything that we did, mostly because we were so transparent and so, well, well-intentioned. I think we had some very good salespeople who spoke early on about what we were doing, and we created great, again, this sort of transparency. So there was no overspending, and the results are, they speak for themselves. Okay. So thank you, and God bless you. And are you going to be staying in Denver, Juniper? Good. Well, listen, come by and visit one of our schools. We actually hire teachers to teach journalism. And I know that you love America. You'd probably be a very, very good teacher for a course in journalism in California, okay? And just make sure you teach our young people to love our great nation. That means a lot to me.